When a photographer's dating app mistake sends her heartfelt photo to a stranger, it sparks a cross-country connection with a tech CEO guarding his identity and his heart. But can an accidental message lead to something real? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The California sun was setting over San Diego as Catalina Reyes clicked through the photos she'd taken that day. Her small apartment was neat, but filled with prints of other people's special moments, weddings, birthdays, family reunions. At Sius, 28, Catalina had made a name for herself as a talented freelance photographer, though she preferred to stay behind the camera rather than in front of it. "You're missing the point of being young in San Diego," her best friend Elena said, sprawled on Catalina's couch with a glass of wine. "When was the last time you went on a date?" Catalina tucked a strand of dark hair behind her ear. "I don't have time for dating. I have 3 wedding shoots this weekend." "Exactly my point. You're always capturing other people's love stories. Don't you want one of your own?" The truth was, Catalina did want that. But after being raised by her older sister Maria following their mother's death, she'd gotten used to being the responsible one, the one who took care of others rather than herself. "Look," Eleanor said, pulling out her phone, "I'm not saying you need to get married tomorrow, but this dating app is perfect for busy people like you. Just try it." "I don't know." Catalina hesitated. "For me, please? Just one little profile?" After 20 minutes of Elena's pleading, Catalina finally gave in. "Fine, but I'm not putting any of those posed, pouty pictures on there." "Of course not. You should use a real one. Something that shows the real you." Catalina stepped out onto her small balcony. The golden hour light was perfect, warm and soft. She held her phone up, smiled naturally, and took the photo. "That's perfect," Elena exclaimed when she saw it. "You look beautiful, but in a real way. Now write something." Catalina stared at the blank message box, suddenly nervous. "What do I say? Just be honest." Taking a deep breath, Catalina typed, "I'm not great at this, but here I am." She hesitated before hitting send. This felt so unlike her, putting herself out there, being vulnerable. But maybe Elena was right. Maybe it was time to step out. From behind her camera. "Just do it," Elena encouraged. Catalina hit send, not realizing in her nervousness that she'd accidentally typed the wrong number in the contact field. 3,000 miles away in New York City, Adrian Cole was sitting in his luxury hotel suite, going through emails on his laptop. At 31, he was already one of the most successful tech entrepreneurs in the country, having built his cybersecurity company from scratch. Success had come at a price, though. His mother had passed away just as his company was taking off, and he'd thrown himself into work ever since. His phone buzzed with a notification, probably another message from his assistant about tomorrow's meeting. But when he glanced at the screen, he was surprised to see a message from an unknown number. Photo appeared. A woman with warm brown eyes and a genuine smile, standing on a balcony in golden sunlight. Below it, a simple message, "I'm not great at this, but here I am." Adrian stared at the phone. He was used to calculated encounters, people who wanted something from him. His money, his connections, his influence. This seemed different, raw, unfiltered. Without thinking, he typed back, "Are you real?" Back in San Diego, Catalina was putting away her wine glasses when her phone chimed. She expected it to be a notification from the dating app, confirming her profile had been created. Instead, she saw a response to her photo. "Are you real?" Confused, she checked the number and realized with horror that she'd sent her photo to a complete stranger instead of uploading it to the app. "Oh my God," she gasped. "Elena, I sent my photo to a random number." Elena rushed over, looking at the phone. "Well, at least they didn't say anything creepy. They seem intrigued." "I need to apologize immediately," Catalina said, already typing. "I'm so sorry. That message wasn't meant for you. I was trying to set up a dating profile and sent it to the wrong place. I'll delete it right away. Sorry for the confusion." She hit send, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. The reply came almost instantly. "Don't, it's the most honest thing I've seen all week." Catalina read the message twice, not sure how to respond. "Okay, this is getting interesting." Eleanor said, reading over her shoulder. "Are you going to answer?" "I don't know, this is crazy, right? Talking to a complete stranger? Isn't that what dating apps are for anyway? At least this happened naturally." Catalina bit her lip, then typed, "Well, that's nice of you to say. But I don't even know who you are." The reply, "Neither do I most days. I'm Adrian, and you are?" "Catalina," she replied after a moment's hesitation. "Beautiful name." "So, Catalina who accidentally texts strangers. What do you do when you're not sending wayward messages?" A smile tugged at her lips. There was something about his messages that seemed genuine despite the strange situation. "I'm a photographer. I capture other people's special moments." "Ah, so you see the world through a lens. That explains the quality of that photo. What made you decide to step in front of the camera for once?" Catalina glanced at Eleanor, who was now pretending not to eavesdrop while scrolling through her own phone. "My friend convinced me it was time to stop hiding behind my camera, that I should put myself out there, though I didn't mean quite so literally." "Well, I'm glad for the mistake. Having a real conversation is rare in my world." "And what world is that?" Catalina asked. There was a pause before his reply came. "A busy one, let's leave it at that for now." In his New York hotel room, Adrian set his phone down for a moment, surprised at himself. He never shared personal thoughts with strangers. His PR team carefully managed his public image, and he kept his private life exactly that, private. Yet, something about this accidental connection felt refreshing. No pretense, no agenda. His phone chimed again. "Fair enough, it's getting late here in San Diego. I should probably let you go." San Diego. So she was on the West Coast. He found himself oddly disappointed that the conversation was ending. "It's later here in New York, but I don't mind. Unless you need to sleep. Not quite yet, so." "New York? Business or pleasure?" Adrian looked at the stack of contracts on the hotel desk. "Definitely business. Always business." "Sounds serious. What kind of business keeps you up late in New York?" Adrian hesitated. The moment he mentioned his company, people's attitudes changed. They either wanted something or treated him differently. The demanding kind. But enough about work. "Tell me. Something real, Catalina from San Diego. Something you wouldn't put on a dating profile." Catalina sat on her balcony, Elena having left an hour ago. She'd been texting this stranger, Adrian, for longer than she'd intended. There was something freeing about talking to someone who didn't know her, who had no expectations. "Something real," she typed. "Okay, I lost my mother when I was 16. My older sister raised me after that. I think that's why I'm always the one taking care of others. Why I stay behind the camera instead of living my own story." She pressed send, then immediately regretted being so open. What was she doing, sharing something so personal with a complete stranger? His reply came several minutes later. "I lost my mother too, 3 years ago, right when my life was supposed to be at its best. Success feels hollow when you can't share it with the people who matter most." Catalina read his words, feeling an unexpected connection forming. "I'm sorry about your mum. It changes you, doesn't it? That kind of loss." "It does. Makes you question what really matters." "And what does matter, Adrian from New York?" "I'm still figuring that out, but tonight this conversation matters. It's the most real thing I've felt in months." Catalina's heart skipped a beat. This was crazy. She was feeling drawn to someone she'd never met, whose face she'd never seen. Yet there was an honesty in their exchange that was missing from her everyday interactions. "Can I ask you something?" she typed. "Anything. Why did you respond to my message? You must have known it wasn't meant for you." Adrian looked out at the New York skyline, lights glittering against the dark sky. It was a good question. Why had he responded? "Because your photo wasn't like anything I normally see. No filters, no perfect pose. Just a woman in the sunlight, being herself. It made me curious about the person behind that kind of authenticity." He paused, then added, "Your turn. Why did you keep responding?" Catalina smiled at his question. "At first, to be polite. Then because you seemed... I don't... No, real, I guess. Like you weren't trying to impress me, just talk to me." "I like that, just talking. No agenda." "No agenda," she agreed. "So another real thing. I've never done anything like this before. Talked to a complete stranger this way. Neither have I. It's oddly liberating, isn't it? No expectations. Catalina yawned, suddenly aware of how late it had gotten. I hate to do this, but I have an early shoot tomorrow. I should get some sleep. Of course. Can I message you tomorrow, or would you prefer to chalk this up to a strange but pleasant one-time encounter? Catalina hesitated only briefly. You can message me. I'd like that. Good night then, Catalina the photographer. Good night, Adrian from New York. As she got ready for bed, Catalina kept glancing at her phone. This whole evening had been surreal. A mistake that had somehow turned into the most genuine conversation she'd had in years. She fell asleep, wondering what Adrian looked like, what his life in New York was really like, and why talking to him felt so easy when she usually found it so hard to open up to people. The next morning, Catalina was up early, preparing her equipment for a family portrait session at Balboa Park. As she packed her lenses, her phone chimed. Good morning from the East Coast. Hope your day is as real as your photo. Catalina smiled, touched that Adrian had remembered she had an early shoot, just getting ready to capture someone else's memories. How's the demanding business world today? Tedious. Meetings ahead. But this message is a bright spot. Catalina felt a warmth spread through her chest. This was ridiculous. She didn't even know this man. Yet their connection felt more genuine than any she'd experienced in years of dating. As she drove to her shoot, she found herself wondering where this strange connection might lead. For once, she was part of a story unfolding, not just the one, capturing it from behind a lens. And despite the rational part of her brain telling her to be cautious, she couldn't help feeling that something important had just begun. Over the next few weeks, messages between Catalina and Adrian became part of their daily routines. Every morning, Catalina would wake up to a text from New York. Every night, Adrian would end his day with her thoughts from California. Tell me about your day, Adrian texted one evening as Catalina returned from a beach wedding shoot. She kicked off her sandals and settled onto her balcony. Sand everywhere. The bride was beautiful, but the wind kept blowing her veil. Somehow those turned out to be the best shots, her laughing as her new husband chased the veil down the beach. You see beauty in imperfection, Adrian replied. That's rare. What about you? How was your board meeting? Predictable. Men in expensive suits pretending they understand technology better than they do. The usual. Catalina smiled. Adrian rarely shared specifics about his work, just like she never asked for his last name. There was something special about knowing each other only through their words and thoughts. I have to fly to Los Angeles tomorrow, Adrian wrote. Business. Meetings all week. Catalina felt a flutter in her stomach. Los Angeles was only a 2-hour drive from San Diego. That's close. I was thinking the same thing. Her heart raced as she typed, Are we ready for that meeting in person? The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. I don't know. Part of me wants to say yes immediately, but this connection we have, it feels special because it's just words, no complications. No expectations, she added, remembering their early conversations. Exactly. Let me think about it. This LA trip is going to be hectic anyway. Catalina tried to ignore her disappointment. Of course, no pressure. Later that night, as she scrolled through the wedding photos she'd taken, Catalina found herself wondering what Adrian looked like. Was he tall? Short? Did he have kind eyes? She'd never cared so much about meeting someone she'd never seen. In his Manhattan apartment, Adrian packed for his Los Angeles trip, his mind on Catalina. He'd never connected with anyone this way before. Most people in his life wanted something from him, access to his wealth, his connections, his influence. But Catalina didn't even know who he really was. That would change if they met in person. His face had been in business magazines. One Google search of Adrian Cole would reveal everything: his company, his success, his fortune. Would that change? Things between them. Would she see him differently once she knew? He picked up his phone and looked at her photo again, the one she'd accidentally sent him that first night. The genuine smile, the warmth in her eyes. He'd looked at it so many times over the past weeks. His assistant knocked on the door. Car's ready to take you to the airport, Mr. Cole. Thanks, Jennifer. I'll be right down. Catalina's sister Maria came by for their weekly dinner, bringing groceries and her motherly concern. You seem different, Maria said as they chopped vegetables together. More, I don't know, distracted, Catalina shrugged. I've been busy with work. It's not work. You get focused with work, not dreamy. Maria pointed her knife at Catalina. Are you seeing someone? Not exactly. Catalina wasn't sure how to explain Adrian. What does that mean? Catalina sighed and put down her knife. I've been talking to someone, but we've never met. Maria's eyebrows shot up. Like an online thing? Catalina, you need to be careful. It's not like that. It was an accident, actually. She explained about the wrong number, the photo, the weeks of messages, and you don't even know his last name, or what he looks like. Maria looked horrified. He could be anyone. That's kind of the point, Catalina said. We're just talking, getting to know each other without all the usual judgment. It's nice. It's weird, Maria countered, and potentially dangerous. You always think the worst. I worry about you. That's my job. Catalina smiled softly. You've been doing that job since I was 16. I'm 28 now. I can take care of myself. Maria sighed. Fine, but if you ever decide to meet this mystery man, you tell me first, and you meet in a public place, and you text me every hour. Yes, Mom, Catalina teased, though she appreciated her sister's concern. The next day, Catalina was editing photos when a text came through from Adrian. Landed in LA. The weather here reminds me of your photo, she smiled. Welcome to Southern California. How long are you staying? 4 days, back-to-back meetings until Thursday. Catalina hesitated, then typed, Would you want to meet for coffee? On Thursday before you fly back? No pressure. The response didn't come immediately. She put her phone down and tried to focus on work, but kept checking for a reply. Finally, an hour later. I'd like that. But I need to tell you something first. Catalina felt a knot form in her stomach. Was he married? Was this all some game to him? What is it? She typed, bracing herself. I haven't been completely honest about who I am. My work, it makes me careful about new connections. Catalina frowned. Are you in witness protection or something? Nothing that exciting. I'm just known in certain circles. I wanted to keep our conversations about us, not about what I do. I understand that, she replied, relieved it wasn't something worse. I don't care what you do for work, Adrian. I care about the person who's been texting me every day for weeks. That means a lot. So, Thursday. Thursday, she confirmed, feeling both nervous and excited. Adrian's week in Los Angeles was filled with investor meetings and partnership negotiations. His company was preparing to launch a new security product, and everyone wanted a piece of the action. But through each power lunch and boardroom discussion, his mind kept drifting to Thursday, to Catalina. On Wednesday night, he received a text from her. Nervous about tomorrow, he smiled. Me too, but good nervous. I was thinking we could meet at this small art gallery cafe in La Jolla. It's quiet and they have great coffee. Sounds perfect, send me the address. She did, adding, How will I recognize you? Adrian thought for a moment. I'll be wearing a blue jacket. And you? I'll bring my camera, not to use, just as a signal. Always hiding behind your lens, he teased. Not this time, she replied. Thursday morning, Catalina stood in front of her closet, suddenly concerned about what to wear. She finally settled on a simple sundress, comfortable but pretty. This is ridiculous, she told her reflection. It's just coffee. But it wasn't just coffee. In these weeks of messages, Adrian had become important to her. She'd told him things she rarely shared with anyone, about her fears, her dreams, her mother's death, and he'd shared his own vulnerabilities in return. Now they were about to meet face to face, and everything could change. Her phone rang. Eleanor. Calling. Today's the big day, her friend squealed. Are you excited? Nervous? Both? Definitely both, Catalina admitted. What if it's weird in person? What if we have nothing to say to each other? After weeks of non-stop texting? I doubt that. But if it's terrible, you just finish your coffee and leave, no big deal. Right, no big deal. But it felt like a very big deal. Adrian finished his last meeting by noon, earlier than expected. He headed back to his hotel to change, opting for casual clothes rather than his usual business suit. He wanted to meet Catalina as himself, not as CEO Adrian Cole. His phone buzzed with a news alert. He glanced at it and froze. Tech CEO Adrian Cole, spotted in LA with former flame. There was a photo of him and Vanessa Richardson leaving a restaurant. After yesterday's business lunch, Vanessa was his company's marketing director, and briefly, 2 years ago, something more. Now they were just colleagues, but the gossip sites loved to suggest otherwise. Adrian cursed under his breath. Catalina wouldn't see this, would she? She didn't even know his last name. But what if she searched for him before their meeting? He considered texting her, explaining. But explaining would mean telling her exactly who he was, which meant possibly changing everything before they even met. He decided to wait, to meet her first as planned, to have at least one real conversation face-to-face before his public identity complicated things. Catalina arrived at the Gallery Cafe 20 minutes early, securing a quiet table near the back. The walls were lined with black and white photographs, street scenes mostly, capturing everyday moments made extraordinary through the photographer's eye. She placed her camera on the table, feeling strangely vulnerable without it to hide behind. "Can I get you something?" a waiter asked. "Just water for now, thanks. I'm waiting for someone." Each time the door opened, Catalina's heart jumped. And then, at exactly the agreed time, a man in a blue jacket walked in. He was tall, with dark hair and a face that looked both kind and somehow familiar. He scanned the room until his eyes landed on her camera, then on her. A smile spread across his face, not the polished smile of someone used to charming others, but a genuine expression of recognition and relief. Catalina stood as he approached the table. "Catalina?" he asked, his voice deeper than she'd imagined. "Adrian?" They stood there for a moment, just looking at each other, the strangeness of finally putting a face to all those messages hanging between them. "It's really nice to finally meet you," he said, extending his hand. She took it, surprised by the warmth of his touch, the solid reality of him after weeks of just words on a screen. "You too, this is surreal." They sat down, both clearly nervous. So Adrian said, "No camera today, besides that one, I mean." He nodded at the camera on the table. "No, today I'm just here, not hiding behind a lens." He smiled. "I'm glad." The waiter returned and they ordered coffee, the simple task breaking some of the tension. "You look exactly like your voice messages sound," Catalina said once the waiter left. "If that makes any sense." "It does, actually. You look exactly like your photo. Exactly that real." She blushed, unused to such direct compliments. "So final meetings went well?" "They did. Though I was distracted thinking about this." "Me too." They talked easily after that, the connection they'd built online translating surprisingly well to in-person conversation. Adrian asked about her photography, and she found herself explaining her passion for capturing authentic moments in a way she rarely did with others. "I think that's why your accidental message caught my attention," he said. "In my world, everything is calculated. Everything has an agenda. Your photo was just a moment. Real." "And what is your world exactly?" she asked. "You've been pretty mysterious about that." Adrian took a deep breath. "That's something I need to tell you. My full name is Adrian Cole. I'm the CEO of Secure Tech Solutions." Catalina frowned, the name vaguely familiar but not immediately placing it. "It's a cybersecurity company," he continued. "We're fairly well known in the tech world. That's why I was careful not to share too much at first. People tend to see the company, the position, the other things that come with it. Not me." "I understand wanting to be seen for yourself," Catalina said softly. "That's all I've ever wanted too." Adrian reached across the table and took her hand. "I wanted to meet you in person before telling you, so you could see me, the real me, before all the other noise." "I appreciate that," she said, squeezing his hand. "Though I should warn you, I'm terrible with tech. I barely understand how my camera's Wi-Fi works." He laughed, relief evident on his face. "That's refreshing, actually." As they finished their coffee, Adrian suggested they walk through the gallery. Catalina found herself seeing the photographs. differently with him beside her, noticing details she might have missed alone. "This one," she said, stopping in front of a photo of an elderly couple on a park bench, "reminds me of something my mother used to say, that the most beautiful love stories are the quiet ones, the ones no one writes about in books." Adrian stood, close to her, their shoulders almost touching. "I think your mother was very wise." "She was." Catalina turned to face him. "This has been nice, really nice." "It has," he agreed, "but I fly back to New York tonight." Reality crashed back. They lived on opposite coasts. He had a high-profile career. She had her life in San Diego. "So what happens now?" she asked. "I don't know. But I do know I'm not ready for this to end." Before Catalina could respond, her phone chimed loudly. A text from Elena. "How's it going with Mystery Man?" The spell broken, Catalina checked the time. "I have to get going. I have a client meeting at 4. "Of course," Adrian said, disappointment evident in his voice. "Can I walk you to your car?" Outside, the California sunshine was bright after the dimness of the gallery. They stood awkwardly by Catalina's car. "So," Adrian said, "we keep texting." "I'd like that. And maybe I can call sometimes? Now that we've actually met." Catalina smiled. "I'd like that too." There was a moment, brief but electric, when it seemed like he might kiss her. Instead, he reached out and squeezed her hand once more. "Safe flight back to New York," she said. "Thank you for meeting me, Catalina, for being real." As she drove away, Catalina couldn't stop smiling. The connection she'd felt through their messages was even stronger in person. Adrian was thoughtful, genuine, and saw her in a way few others did. But as she stopped at a traffic light, doubt crept in. She pulled out her phone and did what she hadn't done before. She searched Adrian Cole Secure Tech. Immediately, pages of results appeared. Photos of Adrian in business suits at tech conferences, articles about his company's success, his estimated net worth, a number that made Catalina's eyes widen. And then, near the top of the results, a gossip site headline from just yesterday: Tech CEO Adrian Cole spotted in LA with former flame. The light turned green, but Catalina barely noticed, her eyes fixed on a photo of Adrian with a stunning blonde woman, both dressed elegantly, leaving what looked like an expensive restaurant. The bubble of happiness that had carried her through the afternoon suddenly burst. What was she doing? Their worlds couldn't be more different. He was a tech millionaire who dated beautiful, sophisticated women. She was a photographer who'd never left California. By the time she arrived at her client meeting, Catalina had convinced herself that their connection, however real it had felt, couldn't possibly lead anywhere. Some stories, no matter how they began, weren't meant to continue. Adrian sat in the first-class cabin of his flight back to New York, staring at his phone. He'd sent Catalina a message after their meeting, just a simple, "Thank you for today," but she hadn't responded. It wasn't like her. Usually she replied within minutes. Had something changed? Their meeting had gone well. Better than well. The connection they'd built through messages had felt even stronger in person. He'd seen it in her eyes, felt it in the way they'd talked so easily. But something wasn't right. "Can I get you anything?" "Mr. Cole?" the flight attendant asked. "No, thank you," he replied, barely looking up from his phone. He tried calling Catalina, but it went straight to voicemail. "Hi, it's me," he said after the beep. "I just wanted to make sure you're okay. Today was special, at least for me. Call me when you can." Catalina sat on her balcony, ignoring the buzzing of her phone. She'd seen the gossip article photo a dozen times now, Adrian with the beautiful blonde woman, both looking like they belonged on a magazine cover. Elena sat across from her, wine glass in hand. "So let me get this straight. You finally meet this guy, it goes great, and now you're ignoring him because of some random photo on a gossip site?" "It's not random," Catalina argued. "They were together just yesterday." And the article called her his former flame, former being the key word. "And you don't know the context. They could have been having a business meeting. At a fancy restaurant with her looking like that?" Elena sighed. "Have you thought about, I don't know, asking him about it?" "And say what?" "Hey, I know we just met in person for the first time today, but are you dating a supermodel?" First of all, she's not a supermodel. I looked her up. She's his company's marketing director. And second, yes, just ask him. Catalina shook her head. I can't. It's too embarrassing. And anyway, seeing that article made me realize how different our worlds are. He's this successful CEO who travels between New York and LA for business meetings. I'm just a photographer who's never even been to New York. That's exactly why he likes you. You're real, you said it yourself. That's what he connected with from the beginning. Catalina's phone buzzed again, with another text from Adrian. Is everything okay? I'm worried. Elena pointed at the phone. The poor man is concerned. Just talk to him. After another glass of wine and much persuasion from Elena, Catalina finally picked up her phone. She didn't call, but sent a brief text. I'm fine. Just busy. Safe travels. It was cold and she knew it, but she needed time to think. Back in New York, Adrian threw himself into work, trying to understand what had gone wrong. Catalina's messages, when they came at all, were short and distant. The easy connection they'd shared seemed broken. After 3 days of this, he couldn't take it anymore. He called her again, late on a Sunday night. To his surprise, she answered. Adrian, she said, her voice guarded. Catalina, thank you for picking up. I've been worried. There's no need to worry, I'm fine. But we're not fine. Something changed after we met, and I don't understand what. There was a long silence before she spoke. I saw the article about you and your marketing director. Adrian closed his eyes, understanding flooding through him. Vanessa. Yes, Vanessa. You were photographed leaving a restaurant together, the day before we met. It was a business lunch, Catalina, nothing more. Vanessa and I, there was something between us a long time ago, but it's been over for years. She works for me now, that's all. The article called her your former flame. Gossip sites exaggerate everything. They've been trying to link us together ever since. She joined the company. It sells clicks. Another silence. I believe you. But seeing that photo, it made me realize how different our lives are. You're this successful CEO with a whole public life I know nothing about. That's not fair. I told you who I was when we met. I just wanted you to know me as a person first. I know, she admitted. And I understand why. But Adrian, be realistic. What are we doing? We live on opposite coasts. You run a major company. I take pictures of strangers' weddings. And that matters because it just does. People like you date people like Vanessa. Successful, polished, part of your world. Adrian felt frustration building. Don't tell me who I should date. I've spent years surrounded by polished people who only care about what I can do for them. Then I get this accidental message from a woman who doesn't even know who I am, who talks to me like I'm just a person, and you think I should stick to dating within my world. Catalina didn't respond immediately. When she did, her voice was softer. I'm scared, Adrian. This all happened so fast. The connection we have, it feels important, too important to mess up. So your solution is to pull away? I don't know what my solution is. I just need some time to think. Adrian sighed. I understand. Take the time you need. But Catalina, I'm not going anywhere. 2 weeks passed with minimal contact. Catalina threw herself into her work, booking as many shoots as possible to keep busy. But every night when she sat on her balcony alone, she found herself rereading their early messages, missing him. Her sister Maria stopped by unexpectedly one evening. With Chinese takeout. Elena called me, Maria said, setting out containers of food. She's worried about you, says you've been moping around. I'm not moping, Catalina protested. I'm just busy. Maria handed her a plate. So, this Adrian person, the one you've never met. We did meet. Once. And, Catalina poked at her food. And it was nice, really nice, but complicated. Love usually is. Who said anything about love? Catalina felt her cheeks flush. Maria raised an eyebrow. Your face just did. It's not that simple. He lives in New York. He runs this huge company. He's probably a millionaire. Are those supposed to be bad things? No, but we're from different worlds. Maria set down her fork and looked at her sister seriously. Catalina, do you know what Mom told me before she died? She said, Make sure your sister doesn't hide from life. And that's what you've been doing, hiding behind your camera, capturing other people's lives instead of living your own. That's not fair, isn't it? You find a connection with someone and the moment it gets difficult, you pull away. Maria reached across the table and took Catalina's hand. Mom would want you to be brave. Tears filled Catalina's eyes. I don't know how to do this, Maria. I don't know how to let someone in, not like this. No one does, sweetie, you just do it anyway. In his Manhattan office, Adrian stared out at the city skyline, barely listening to his CFO's presentation about quarterly projections. His mind was in San Diego with Catalina. Mr. Cole, did you hear the question? His CFO asked. I'm sorry, David. Could you repeat that? His assistant, Jennifer, gave him a concerned look as the meeting continued. After everyone left, she lingered in the doorway. Is everything okay, Adrian? You've seemed distracted lately. Adrian had known Jennifer for years. She'd been with him since the beginning, one of the few people who knew him before success had changed his life. I met someone, he admitted. Someone different, real. Jennifer smiled. That's wonderful. So why do you look miserable? Because she lives in California. Because she thinks our lives are too different. Because I think I'm falling for someone I've only met once in person. Well, that all sounds very sensible and logical, Jennifer said, her voice lightly sarcastic. Clearly you should just give up. Adrian couldn't help but smile. That obvious, huh? I've known you for 7 years, Adrian. I've seen you build a company from nothing. You don't give up on things that matter. She paused. Does she matter? Yes, he said without hesitation. She matters. Then do something about it. Catalina was in the middle of a corporate headshot session when her phone buzzed. She ignored it until the break between subjects. A text from Adrian. Check your email when you get a chance. Curious, she opened her email app and found a message from him with an attachment. She opened it to find a digital print of the photo she'd accidentally sent him that first night, the one of her on the balcony in the golden light. But it had been edited subtly, professionally. The color balance enhanced, the light made more. Golden, her smile somehow more luminous. It was the same photo but elevated, showing her as she truly was, but through a lens of skill and care. The email text was simple. I had this professionally printed. It's beautiful like the woman in it. I'm flying to San Diego this weekend, no expectations, just hoping for a chance to talk. Let me know if you'll see me. Catalina stared at the message, her heart racing. Then she did something impulsive. She lifted her camera and took a self-portrait, right there in the studio. No posing, no perfect light. Just her in the moment, with hope in her eyes. She sent it to Adrian with the message, Yes, I'll see you. That Saturday, Catalina waited nervously at a small beachside cafe. She'd chosen a table on the patio where they could hear the waves while they talked. She saw him before he saw her, walking along the beach path, looking more casual than she'd seen him before in jeans and a simple button-down shirt. Her breath caught when he spotted her and smiled. Hi, he said, reaching the table. Hi, she replied, suddenly shy. He sat down across from her, his eyes never leaving hers. Thank you for agreeing to see me. Thank you for coming all this way. I'd have gone further. The server came for their order, giving them a moment to settle into the conversation. I need to apologize, Catalina said once they were alone. I shouldn't have pulled away like that. It wasn't fair to you. Why did you? Adrian asked gently. She took a deep breath. Because I was scared. Not just of the photo and the differences in our lives, though that was part of it. I was scared of how much I was starting to care about you, how real it felt. I was scared too, Adrian admitted. Still am a little. This isn't how things usually happen. No, it's not. But maybe that's why it matters. It wasn't planned or calculated, it just happened. Catalina nodded. Ever since my mum died, I've had trouble letting people get close. It's easier to be behind the camera, capturing moments without being part of them. And I've had trouble finding people who see me, not what I can do for them. He reached across the table, his hand open, waiting. Maybe we're both a little broken, in ways that fit together. She placed her hand in his, the warmth of his touch sending a flutter through her. Maybe we are. Here's what I know, Catalina. I've never connected with anyone the way I connect with you. Not in person, not through a screen. And I'm not willing to let that go without giving it a real chance. What about New York, your company? I can work from anywhere sometimes, and there are these amazing inventions called airplanes. His smile faded into something more serious. I'm not saying it would be easy, but I am saying you're worth the effort. The server returned with their drinks, and they sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the ocean breeze washing over them. What are you thinking? Adrian asked. I'm thinking that I want to try, that I'm tired of hiding behind my camera, that maybe it's time to be in the picture for once. His smile was like sunshine. I'd like that very much. But, she added, we need to go slow, really get to know each other, in person, not just through messages. Agreed, no rushing, and no more secrets. I want to know about your world, Adrian. All of it, he nodded. No more secrets. They spent the rest of the day walking along the beach, talking, learning each other in this new, real way. When the sun began to set, casting that same golden light that had illuminated her first accidental photo, Adrian stopped walking. You're beautiful in this light, he said. Just like that first picture. Instead of blushing or looking away as she might have done before Catalina met his gaze directly. Thank you. He stepped closer, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. May I kiss you, Catalina? Her heart racing, she nodded. And as the sun sank toward the horizon, Adrian's lips found hers in a kiss that felt like the beginning of something real, something true. Over the next month, Adrian and Catalina found a rhythm. He worked remotely from San Diego for a week, then flew back to New York for necessary meetings. They talked every day, no longer just through texts but video calls where they could see each other's faces, hear each other's laughter. Adrian introduced Catalina to his world gradually, explaining his work in a way that made sense to her, sharing stories about how he'd built his company from a small startup to the success it was today. In turn, Catalina invited him to join her on a few photography jobs, letting him see her in her element, capturing moments of joy and connection between people. You have a gift, he told her after watching her work a family portrait session. You make people comfortable enough to be themselves. Like you did with me, she replied. From the very beginning, they were having dinner at Catalina's apartment, when Adrian received an urgent call from his office. I'm sorry, he said after hanging up. There's a situation with one of our biggest clients. I need to fly back to New York tonight. Disappointment washed over Catalina's face before she could hide it. I understand your work is important. Hey, he said, taking her hand. You're important too. This back and forth is hard, I know. We knew it would be. She forced a smile. You should pack. I'll call you a car to the airport. As Adrian gathered his things, Catalina tried to suppress the familiar fear creeping back, that their worlds were too different, that this couldn't last. At the door, Adrian pulled her into a tight embrace. I'll be back next weekend. Be safe, she whispered against his chest. After he left, Catalina's apartment felt emptier than it ever had before. She wandered onto her balcony, the same spot where she'd taken that fateful photo. Her phone chimed, with a text from Adrian. Already missing you. Despite the warmth those words brought, Catalina couldn't shake a sense of unease. She loved having Adrian in her life. But how long could they sustain this coast-to-coast relationship? Would one of them eventually have to choose their career or their relationship? She didn't want to think about it, not yet. For now, she would focus on the present, on the connection they were building day by day. But as she looked out at the San Diego skyline, so different from the New York view Adrian saw from his window, she wondered if love alone would be enough to bridge the distance between their worlds. 2 months into their relationship, the strain of distance was beginning to show. Adrian had been stuck in New York for 3 weeks straight, dealing with a security breach at his company that required his constant attention. Their daily video calls had dwindled as his crisis meetings ran late into the night. Catalina tried to be understanding, but doubt crept in during the lonely evenings on her balcony. She missed him, his smile, his touch, the way he listened to her as if every word mattered. He'll be back soon. Elena reassured her over lunch. This is just a rough patch. I know, Catalina sighed. But what if this is how it always is? Him rushing back to New York every time there's a crisis. Me waiting here, putting my life on hold. Have you talked to him about it? How can I? His company needs him. I can't ask him to choose. Elena gave her appointed look. So you're just going to let your fears make the decision for both of you? Before Catalina could answer, her phone rang, Adrian's name lighting up the screen. Hey, she said, stepping away from the table. Hey yourself, Adrian replied, his voice tired but warm. I miss you. I miss you too. How's the crisis? Finally, under control. Listen, I have news. I'll be flying back tomorrow. Catalina's heart lifted. Really? That's wonderful. And there's more. I've been thinking, this back and forth is exhausting for both of us. I have a proposition to discuss when I see you. A proposition? Catalina's mind raced with possibilities. Nothing bad, I promise, just something that might make things easier. I need to go into another meeting now, but I'll text you my flight details later. Can't wait to see you. Me too, she said, but he had already hung up. Elena raised an eyebrow when Catalina returned to the table. Good news? He's coming back tomorrow and he said he has a proposition to discuss. Elena's eyes widened. A proposition? Like a proposal? I don't think so, Catalina said quickly, though the thought sent butterflies through her stomach. Probably just a solution to all this travel. Which would be what, one of you moving? Catalina hadn't let herself think that far ahead. I don't know. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But as she drove home, her mind filled with possibilities. Would Adrian ask her to move to New York? Could she leave San Diego, her sister, her established photography business? Or was he considering opening a West Coast office for his company? By the time she reached her apartment, another, more worrying thought had taken root. What if Adrian was ending things? What if he'd realized the distance was too much? She tried to push the negative thoughts away as she prepared for a small wedding shoot the next day. Adrian had never given her any reason to doubt his feelings. From that first accidental message, he'd been nothing but honest with her. At JFK Airport, Adrian checked his watch as he waited to board his flight to San Diego. He was nervous about the conversation ahead, but certain it was the right step. The past 2 months with Catalina had shown him what mattered most in his life, and it wasn't board meetings or profit margins. His assistant Jennifer approached with his boarding pass and a small package. Everything's arranged as you requested, she said, handing him both items. Are you sure about this, Adrian? He nodded, tucking the package into his carry-on. More sure than I've been about anything in a long time. Then I'm happy for you. She sounds special. She is, Adrian said, a smile spreading across his face. She really is. Catalina had just returned from her wedding shoot when her phone chimed with a text from Adrian. Landed safely. Can I come over in about an hour? Of course, she replied, suddenly nervous. I'll be here. She rushed to shower and change, then paced around her apartment, straightening things that didn't need straightening. When the doorbell finally rang, her heart was pounding. Adrian stood in the hallway, looking tired from travel, but so handsome that Catalina's breath caught. Without a word, he stepped forward and pulled her into a tight embrace. I missed you, he murmured against her hair. I missed you too, she whispered back, breathing in his familiar scent. Inside, Adrian set his bag down and took her hands. How was your day, the wedding shoot? It was good. The couple was sweet, very much in love. She hesitated. Adrian, you said you had something to discuss. He nodded, leading her to the couch. These past 3 weeks apart have been difficult. More than difficult. They made me realize something important. Catalina's stomach tightened with anxiety. Here it comes, she thought. I've built my entire life around my work, Adrian continued. Ever since my mother died, I threw myself into the company, thinking success would somehow fill the emptiness, but it didn't. Nothing did, until that accidental message from you. Hope flickered in Catalina's chest. Adrian, let me finish, he said gently. I've been doing a lot of thinking about us, about the future. And I want you to know that I'm ready to make changes, big ones if necessary. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small wrapped package. For you. Catalina unwrapped it carefully to find a framed print. The photo she'd accidentally sent him that first night, the one he'd had professionally edited. But now it was paired with another image, Adrian standing on a balcony, New York City lights. Glittering behind him, smiling directly at the camera. I asked one of your photographer friends to help me, he explained. Elena gave me their number. I wanted a matching set. You in your world, me in mine. But here's the thing, Catalina. I don't want separate worlds anymore. Her eyes filled with tears as she traced the edge of the frame. What are you saying? I'm saying that I've been exploring options for us. I could open a West Coast office and split my time more evenly. Or if you wanted, no pressure, you could consider expanding your photography to New York. There's certainly demand for your talent there. He took a deep breath. Or maybe there's a third option where we both compromise a little. I work remotely more often. You take on clients in both cities. We figure it out together. You've thought about this a lot, Catalina said softly. I have. Because you matter to me more than the company, more than New York. I love you, Catalina. The words hung in the air between them. The first time either had said them aloud, Catalina felt tears spill onto her cheeks. I love you too. Adrian reached out to wipe away a tear with his thumb. So what do you think about figuring out our future together? I think... Catalina looked down at the framed photos, their two worlds side by side. I think I need to stop hiding from life. My sister told me that's what I've been doing, hiding behind my camera instead of living. What does living look like to you, Catalina? She met his gaze. It looks like taking chances. Like maybe trying something new, somewhere new with you. Adrian's face lit up. Are you saying you'd consider New York? I'm saying I'd consider us, wherever that takes us. She took his hand. I've spent so long capturing other people's moments of joy. Maybe it's time to create some of my own. He leaned forward and kissed her, a kiss full of promise and possibility. There's something else, Adrian said, reaching into his pocket. This isn't a ring. Not yet, though someday if you want. But it is a key to my apartment in New York. So whenever you want to visit to see if you might like it there, you can. Catalina took the key, her fingers closing around it. Thank you. We'll take it slow, he promised. Figure out what works for both of us, no rush. She nodded, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. The fear that had been holding her back, fear of change, of vulnerability, of loss, began to fade in the warmth of Adrian's love and understanding. Stay tonight, she asked. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. 1 month later, Catalina stood in the middle of a busy New York art gallery, watching as people moved from photo to photo, examining her work. It was her first show outside of California, a series called Accidental Connections, featuring candid moments between people who thought no one was watching. Adrian stood a few feet away, talking with the gallery owner, but keeping Catalina in his sight. He'd arranged the show through his connections, but had insisted that her work had earned the opportunity on its own merit. The photographer has such an eye for authentic moments, a woman commented, studying a particularly moving image of an elderly couple holding hands on a park bench. Catalina smiled to herself. Authenticity. It was what had drawn Adrian to her accidental photo all those months ago, what had formed the foundation of their relationship from the very beginning. She felt a presence beside her and turned to find Adrian, his eyes warm with pride. They love your work, he said quietly. I can hardly believe this is happening, she admitted. Believe it. You've earned this, Catalina. Your talent deserves to be seen. The gallery owner approached them. Ms. Reyes, there's someone I'd like you to meet, a curator from the Whitney Museum. He's very interested in your perspective. As the owner led her toward a distinguished-looking man in the corner, Catalina glanced back at Adrian, who gave her an encouraging nod. The curator smiled as she approached. Ms. Reyes, your work is exceptional. There's a raw honesty to it that's rare in contemporary photography. Thank you, Catalina said, still unused to such high praise. I'm particularly drawn to this piece, the curator continued, gesturing to a photo on the wall. The image of Catalina on her balcony, the one that had started everything. Adrian had convinced her to include it in the show, arguing that her story was part of her art. "Is this one of yours?" the curator asked. Catalina smiled, her cheeks flushing. "No, that one found me." She looked across the room, meeting Adrian's gaze. He was watching her with such love that it took her breath away. 6 months ago, she'd been hiding behind her camera, capturing other people's lives instead of living her own. Now she was standing in a New York gallery, her work on the walls, her heart full and her future wide open, all because of a message meant for someone else. 2 weeks later, Catalina and Adrian walked hand in hand through Central Park. The autumn leaves created a colorful canopy above them, and the crisp air carried the promise of winter. "I have something to show you," Adrian said, leading her to a bench overlooking the lake. He pulled out his phone and opened an email. "What do you think of this place?" Catalina looked at photos of a beautiful brownstone with large windows and a rooftop garden. "It's gorgeous. Is it for your company?" "No, it's for us. If you want," he squeezed her hand. "It's halfway between my office and that studio space you liked in Brooklyn, and there's a room perfect for a home darkroom." Catalina's eyes widened. "Adrian, are you asking me to move in with you?" "I'm asking if you'd consider making New York our primary home, with frequent trips to San Diego, of course. You could keep your apartment there for now, maintain your client base." "You've thought of everything," she said, touched by his consideration. "I've tried. But ultimately, this is your decision too." "Our decision." Catalina looked out at the lake, thinking about how much had changed in just a few months. She'd been spending more and more time in New York, building connections with galleries and clients here. And every time she returned to San Diego, her apartment felt less like home and more like a place she was just visiting. Home, she realized, was wherever Adrian was. "Yes," she said, turning back to him. "Let's do it. Let's make New York our home." Base, Adrian's face broke into a wide smile. "Really? Really, but I have one condition, anything. We need a balcony, a place where I can stand in the sunlight and say, 'Here I am.'" Adrian laughed, pulling her close. "That brownstone has 3 balconies. And the best part? The previous owner was a photographer too. It's like it was meant for you." "For us," Catalina corrected. "It was meant for us." As they sat together, planning their future, Catalina thought about that first accidental message. How terrified she'd been to put herself out there, to be seen, and how that one mistake had led her to the greatest love she'd ever known. "What are you thinking about?" Adrian asked, noticing her small smile. "About how sometimes the best things in life happen by accident, and how grateful I am that I sent that message to the wrong number." Adrian kissed her softly. It wasn't the wrong number at all, it was exactly the right one. And sitting there in the autumn light, Catalina knew he was right. Through all the doubts and fears, across the distance between their worlds, they had found each other. Not through careful planning or dating apps or algorithms, but through a simple moment of vulnerability, a moment of saying, "Here I am." It wasn't always easy. They still had challenges to navigate. Her photography career, his demanding company, the balance between San Diego and New York. But they faced those challenges together, one day at a time, building a life that honored both their worlds while creating something entirely new. A month later, they stood together on the balcony of their new brownstone, watching the first snow of winter drift down over the city. Adrian wrapped his arms around Catalina from behind, his warmth a shield against the cold. "Happy?" he asked, his breath warm. Against her ear. "More than I ever thought possible," she answered truthfully. Below them, New York continued its endless rhythm, a city of millions of stories unfolding simultaneously. But up here, on their balcony, was the only story that mattered, the one they were writing together. A story of an accidental connection that had become the most real thing in either of their lives. Catalina turned in Adrian's arms to face him, no longer hiding, no longer afraid to be seen. "I love you, Adrian Cole." "And I love you, Catalina Reyes," he replied, his eyes reflecting. All the certainty she felt in her heart, every real, authentic part of you. As snow fell around them, they sealed their love with a kiss, No longer two people from different worlds, but two halves of a single shared life. A life built on honesty, vulnerability, and the courage to say, "Here I am."